Welcome to The Wedding Wear with Officiating by Amanda. The Wedding Wear. The father of the groom had the longest speech. Welcome back to The Wedding Wear. This is Amanda, and you are catching us in the midst of our pseudo series. We listen and we don't judge. Well, for today, I judged quite a bit. In fact, it caused me to judge so much that I changed some plans for my own wedding. So let's dive in. The father of the groom had a long speech, a very long speech. And it got to a point of uncomfortableness. It was a few years back, small wedding for a dear friend, someone I'd known throughout bits of college when I was working at the college. I had just gotten engaged. I was maybe 4 months engaged, and was starting to plan my own reception, fully in observation mode. Like, okay, what do I like? What don't I like? Kind of building upon what I had already said I always wanted from day one. And I knew just like how meaningful it was to have parents give speeches because they bring so much about who you are to the surface. Your friends talk about, high school and college, and sometimes some dumb stories about the people you were dating before your significant other. Your parents bring in those really key moments from when you were young, or even their observation of how you changed as a person when you met your significant other, when you brought them home to meet them, and how they've bonded in with the family since then. So definitely knew, like, yeah, I want parents giving speeches. My father's not one for talking. My mother makes up for that. But I definitely wanted parent speeches. So when I was at the reception, I was really excited for the speeches to come. And as we know, I don't normally attend receptions. See the wedding where I gave a drunken toast. So I was already a little like, okay, be calm, figure this out. Is anything going to be asked of you? Dinner was really great. I was sitting with a bunch of the other vendors and it was awesome. Always make such good friends at the vendor tables. Then they did the speeches and the maid of honor got a little teary, and the best man, he kept it short and sweet and heartfelt. And then it was the father of the groom's turn. Awesome. So sometimes I see the parents come up as one, or each respective, the parents of the bride, parents of the groom, they'll each kind of stay in their own camp, or one representative from each. I was informed that the father of the groom was going to be the only one speaking. Okay. Maybe others did speeches the other nights, or maybe they didn't want speeches, or who knows, lots of reasons. But cool. One more speech. That's it. That's all we have. And then we can dance a little bit before I have to go home. Strike one. He opened up his speech by saying, well, this idea came to me while I was on the toilet, and then proceeded to pull out a roll of toilet paper and like whip it out into the audience and let it unravel and unroll quite a bit. And there were points where I think he just did it for show, but there's like Sharpie written along the toilet paper. Yeah. Okay. That's a dad joke. That's not that funny, but okay. Sounds good. Strike two. His speech was themed, I'll say themed, significantly around the Boy Scout motto. That's right. That's right. Let's dig into your memory banks there. Do you know it? I have it pulled up. The Scout law is a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. That's 12. So when he started with that, I'm like, oh, okay, like that's kind of cool. I knew that the groom knew a lot of his groomsmen from Scouts. They've been friends since kids. Like, that's cool that he brought it up and mentioned it. And then he went through each and every single one of those attributes describing how the groom had been fitting to them with not so brief anecdotes. 12. If each one was done in a minute, that's 12 minutes for just that part. Then dad had, about a minute and a half at the top and significant minute. That's like 15 minutes for one person's speech. We were there. Thank goodness I had given up on trying to hold my champagne flute to cheers because, oh goodness. And if that wasn't bad enough, then there was strike 3. He began to drag in the groomsmen, all of them very embarrassed, uncomfortable, like, oh yeah, yep, that was me that time, referencing them in the stories, sometimes going a little too personal in the stories. And they really weren't having it. And the groomsmen who tried to kind of ignore him got like a, no, didn't you hear me? And it was really hard to watch and to listen to. And whatever had started out as laughter with the toilet paper gag, like, oh, haha, that's funny. And what had gone with a, oh, that's kind of good sentimental, tying in the scout motto, dragged on. And then it just became uncomfortable. And we were not about that. And we listen and we don't judge. I didn't judge. I was learning. I was learning. By the time I got home, I had already in my head come up with a plan, went straight into my big wedding binder and made a big note in Sharpies. Time limits, speech time limits. And I pivoted it within my own wedding. Each of our parents was told that we really would like them to speak. We didn't just want one representative. And they were each given 2 minutes of time. They were told in advance. They were prepared. They were asked to prepare. I can't say they prepared. They were asked to prepare. And the DJ and the staff on hand had been given the notice that if they start going long or if you see me, start waving my arms and freaking out, that, just grab your other mic and go, thanks, that was a great speech. Because I was not risking this. And by the time I got married the following year, everything was pretty good. My dad said the same thing that he'd been saying for several months in advance. He knew what he was going to say and he just kept practicing it all throughout. So anyone who'd been around my dad had already heard what he was going to say before. My mom did a short little sweet story. My in-laws did great. In true fashion, my mother-in-law wrote hers out. I think she was the only one who had it like printed and ready to go. My father-in-law, he winged it. Under 2 minutes, he winged it. He threw a little shade. But all in all, they were good. No one overstayed their welcome. And I was so, so thankful because I really did, after that one wedding and that really long, not funny, not emotionally, touching the soul speech. Yeah, no, thank you. And there are certainly times where a longer speech is called for or needed. If there's more people talking and they're all sharing in the limelight a little bit, if there's really good sentimental and emotional stories, reflections, moments to be had, yes, by no means cut it short. But all 12 of the Boy Scout motto, please. Ugh. So, some things to think about, especially as you might approach your own wedding day, is, do you need speeches? Do you want speeches? Are there some people you want to have speak and others that you only want them to speak if they're going to say X, Y, and Z story? Maybe then you don't need them to speak. Maybe you take that story that you really wanted shared and you have it on your website or print it somewhere else. Let everybody read it at their own accord. Because when you hand a person a mic, there is a little bit of risk involved in that. Even with me as a professional, you hand me a mic and I've got a script, but something happens, situational humor or raindrops, like I could go off script. I could haven't gone ever crazy before, but that is the risk you take when you hand somebody a microphone. So would you rather control it and say, nope, not risking that something crazy is going to be said, or that my mother is going to be a little drunk because she was drunk at the ceremony, different story, and is going to say something and it's actually about my ex versus my husband. So just always being mindful if you need speeches or you desperately want speeches, because they are a really great way to involve other members of your bridal party or your family within the ceremony, give them something special to do. Just be mindful about who is speaking and what they might say. And you can feel free to have the conversations with them of like, don't mention this. But that sometimes backfires, because if they weren't even thinking about it and you said, oh, hey, but don't mention this, now it's the only thing they're thinking about. Maybe there's a space of, hey, can I read over what you'd like to say, or can I get a copy of it? That way you're not giving away your whole card of, please don't bring this up, but you've got a chance to catch it beforehand. And if you're going to do speeches or really anything where somebody else has some mic, some time, be prepared to cut somebody off. And if you are like, it's my wedding day, I don't want to make that call, give the right and the power over to your coordinator, your venue person, your DJ. Let somebody else be the bad guy if you need to, but do not let it go on. Do not. And I had to laugh. I know most speeches for best man, maid of honors are all going with, their cell phones. They whip out their cell phones for their speeches. Heck, a lot of times grooms will whip out their cell phones for their vows. So certainly pulling out that long-winded toilet paper monologue, maybe he was hoping to go viral, just because that is such like a dad thing to do and an old school thing to do. But I don't know. What do you think? What would you have done sitting there listening to that? Mind you, the bar was closed. You couldn't get up and get more drinks because we're in the middle of speeches. So I couldn't even make it a little like, oh, sit for every grimace of a groomsman, or sit for every trait mentioned from the motto. But what would you do? And then additionally, Boy Scout motto, is there a funny story you would have told at your wedding or at a friend's wedding that fits to one of the elements of the Boy Scout motto? I'm all ears. Drop me a line. Next week, we are going to continue with a little more of the we listen and we don't judge. No judgment, June. I love that. And until next time, this has been Amanda. Thank you for listening to The Wedding Wear with Officiating by Amanda. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some inspiration or insight for your own special day. This podcast is hosted on Buzzsprout and can be found on all major platforms. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, and share to help us reach even more listeners who might laugh a little at The Wedding Wear. For the links referenced in the show, visit Linktree at Officiating by Amanda. You can also follow the business on Facebook, Wedding Wire, and The Knot to stay up to date on everything going on. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on the podcast, just send an email to theweddingwearpodcast@gmail.com. And if you're ready to inquire about officiating services for your own big day, you can reach me at officiatingbyamanda@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, this has been Amanda.